Welcome everybody to chapter 11 of this wonderful book called Living Lessons in Tanya. In chapter 10, we discussed all about what is a righteous person. And we said a righteous person has no sin whatsoever, doesn't even care about things. Now the Alter Rebbe is going to define what is a wicked person. It's either you're righteous or you're wicked. Which one are you? So you can say, can I be in between? We'll talk about that later. But if you remember from chapter 1, the Alter Rebbe said right up front, anybody who does all good is considered a righteous person. And there's two types of righteous people. A righteous person that has good within them, and a righteous person that still, it's not so good. Then there is a wicked person who has good, and then there's a wicked person that's ralo, it's not so good for him. Today we're going to be talking about what is the wicked person. And the Alter Rebbe explained that if you did one sin, you go from righteous to wicked. Yet, we're all wicked. Get that through our heads. We've done a sin in our life. Question is, what is considered a wicked person that's good, and what's considered a wicked person bad? Now, I know the whole purpose of learning Tanya is how to get to at least the in-between. That's coming up, not in this week's. But we first have to define what we are. How bad are we really? So if you look at page 78, way up on top, it says, a wicked person who has good, what kind of a person are you? Is in a state that bad wins control of your actions. But afterwards, you allow the godly soul to talk to you. And you kind of regret, why did I do that? That's a wicked person with good. That after you did something wrong, you have a conscience to say, why did I do that? Why did I do that? On the other hand, there's some people that actually sin. And they have no conscience, no voice to tell them, you may have done something wrong. That voice doesn't even hear them. Let's understand. So let's continue on page 78. Whenever we speak about a wicked person, we think of them as evil. No. According to Tanya, a wicked person is not someone who's a wicked, evil person. He is somebody who entirely rejects, notice he's somebody who rejects God and his Torah. You could be very religious. Instead, a wicked person, let's use the word wicked person, is someone whose animal soul won this battle over the godly soul, causing the person to willfully act. For example, right now, we're having a Tanya class, and all of a sudden somebody goes and says to you, sends you a text. And all of a sudden, while this text is coming in, like it's happening right now, hold on a second, I gotta just turn this off. And let's say the text comes in, so you have a decision to make. Do I continue learning Torah? Or do I say to myself, no, I'm not going to continue just learning Torah. I'm going to be somebody who is going to answer this text. So at this moment, while you're in this class, you're considered righteous. You're learning Torah. Oh, a text came in. The animal soul got you and said, come on, let's have a discussion. So no one sees you. You're in a Zoom class. No one can see. So at that moment, the animal soul won. And then down the road, you're going to go and say, wow, what the rabbi's saying now is fantastic. But I don't understand how we got from here to there. So you have a moment of regret. That moment of regret is very good. As long as you have regret, it's possible that you can become a better person. People call having guilt a bad thing, Jewish guilt, whatever it is. The moment that you start thinking, I shouldn't have done it, or I wish I could do better, if that's called guilt, then it's a good thing. Because how else are you going to grow? How else are you going to be able to uplift yourself? So inside you, it means that there's a godly soul calling out to you. Hello, hello, why did you do that? You're feeling guilty. That's good. Because it now makes you start thinking, okay, the next time this happens, I can do better. That is a tzaddik, that is a rasha, a wicked person, toivloi, that has still good in him. There's a beautiful story of Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet. What happened was, while Elijah the prophet was in Israel, unfortunately there was a king, a Jewish king, that loved a certain idol called Baal. And what he did was, he set up all over his kingdom houses of worship for Baal. So there were Jews now, they woke up in the morning, they put on tefillin, they kept kosher, but they also went to the pageantry and the singing and the dancing and the bowing down and serving Baal. So on one hand, they were listening to their godly neshama, the godly soul, and then on the other hand, they were listening to their animal soul. So Eliyahu Hanavi Elijah the prophet was very, very into straightening this out. So he challenged all the, what they call priests of the church of Baal, to come to a showdown. And there was a little valley with a mountain over here and a mountain over here. And what happened was, he goes and he says, we are now going to put an altar. And all the priests of Baal and all of those that worship Baal, I want you to go and I want you to call out to your God. And on this altar that you've built, put a bull on it, and a ball of fire shall come down. If a ball of fire comes down, then you know that you have a God that hears you and can do things for you. Then I will go. So the people of Baal started screaming and calling and saying, Baal, Baal, please answer us. Bring down a ball of fire. Nothing happened. Eliyahu Navi, Elijah the prophet, was starting to mock them. He says, maybe he's sleeping, call louder. He says, maybe you have to cut yourself and give yourself pain. They started sticking themselves with pain. Baal, Baal. He was mocking them. Late in the afternoon, he says, now it's my turn. And he tells his students, take this altar, dig a big hole around it, fill it up with water, and fill the altar up with water, and tie the hole on top of it. Elijah the prophet, Eliyahu Navi, goes and says, Aneni Hashem Anenu, please answer me, God. Not for me, but for your name. A ball of fire came down. And Elijah the prophet says, why are you constantly dancing from both sides? One day you're listening to your godly neshama, one day you're listening to your animal neshama. Don't you realize you should not be dancing at two weddings, or you can't dance at two weddings at the same time? Pick your Jewish pattern. Why do you go after the animal? Why do you go after the falsities? What is in there? And he convinced that entire nation that was there, the Jewish nation at that time, to get rid of idolatry, etc. So too we have to do with this enough. Many of us, we do the wrong thing, but we feel, why did I do that? Why? That why is a powerful thing, because now that powerful thing can go and say, maybe I should be better. And that can turn you from a wicked, a rasha, and move you into righteous mode. And that's what the Alter Rebbe is, this whole Tanya is about, and making you understand how you work, how everything works inside you. that if you're doing something wrong against the Torah, against God, hurting another person's feeling, which is against the Torah, against God, and you have a guilty conscience afterwards, fix it up quickly. Do what we call tshuva, repent. Go to the person and say you're sorry. And think about what made me pop off to go do that. Why did I listen to my animal soul? But until you do that, so many of us, you and I both are, we know it very well. Since you started coming to the Tanya class, there may be a situation where somebody says, okay, and while you're sitting in a restaurant that may not be kosher, you're sitting there and saying, why am I eating this? It's not kosher. I know better. Sighing is not enough, but it's a start. Because down deep, you know what's better for you. But Rabbi, everybody's doing it. Well, here in Los Angeles, everybody's rioting. Doesn't mean I'm going to go riot. We know how to choose our actions. We know how to go and choose what's right from wrong. So too also, the animal is very strong. I get it. As long as we have that, or I know better, you consider a wicked that still has good in you. But then there are those that are very dull and they're very numb. They don't even know they're doing anything wrong. Now, I'm not talking about somebody who grew up in a home that mommy and daddy didn't teach them anything about Judaism. They can't be blamed. I'm not talking about somebody who grew up, let's say, in the former Soviet Union. You can't blame them. We're talking about people that started hearing about Judaism. They know about Judaism, and they don't care. In other words, they'll do whatever it is, and they don't even feel like they're doing anything wrong. In fact, they actually think we're doing the right thing. The voice of the godly soul can't break through. At that moment, that Jew is called someone who's wicked, but does not have good. There's a famous story on page 80. There was once a young man who grew up religious, but in the late 1700s, early 1800s, started coming what we call the Haskalah movement. They called themselves the brilliant ones. They were the progressive. They were the ones that started founding what we call today the Reform movement. And he fell prey to it. Oh, wow, I can be Jewish and I don't have to keep kosher. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. And he had some questions. So he came to the founder of the Chabad movement, the Alter Rebbe, the one who wrote the Tanya. And he said to the Alter Rebbe, please help me. Please help me with my questions. The Alter Rebbe said to him, I have somebody who's perfect for you. He'll give you your answers straight to the point. I want you to go to the Shloim of the city of Karlin and get an appointment. He went to Karlin, and he's in the waiting room. He had an appointment. And Reb Shloim of Karlin opened up his door, came right up to him, and he said to him, maybe there is, after all, a God. He went back in his room, and he's thinking to himself, what was that? A few minutes later, Reb Shloim of Karlin opens the door, runs over to him straight, says, maybe after all, there is a God. The guy is flabbergasted. This happened 3 times. Well, the young man decided, I don't have to hear from this person ever again. He picked himself up and left. He ran away from total Judaism, and he started working his way up until he became the Minister of Transport in the Soviet Union. Years later, being the Minister of Transportation, he would be building railroads. And after the Alter Rebbe, the founder of the Chabad movement, died, these plans of building train tracks right through Handich, it was going to go right through the cemetery. The Hasidim couldn't let this happen. We don't want to uproot our holy master's grave. So they decided to go meet with the minister. They said, we heard he once befriended Jewish people. So what happened was, they went to the Minister of Transportation and said, hello, we're Chabad Hasidim, and the great Rebbe buried in Hadjitz. His name is the Alter Rebbe. He said, I know the Alter Rebbe. He said, begged him, please, move the train tracks around. I beg you. We beg you. And he said, you know what? I'll build it around. The Chassidim, if you know Chabadniks, whenever there's good news, the first thing they do is they have prepared cake and mashke. So they said to the Minister of Transportation, listen, being that you're Jewish, we're Jewish, and we just made good news, let's have a fabrengen, let's have a l'chaim. So he took some drink, he took some cake, and they were singing, they were dancing in his office, made a ruckus. They sat down, everybody was talking from the heart, and all of a sudden, the Minister of Transportation went and said, I got to tell you something. Every day I knew I was doing something against Judaism. That was me. Going away from Judaism, I was caught. But every time I did something wrong, all I can hear is, maybe after all, there is a God. That's all I heard in my head. The second you asked me, I realized this is an evil thing that we're going to do. And I decided to go with you. You see, down deep, I'm really a good person. I just don't know how to get out of my way. Trust me, the Chassidim, verbringed with him, and the Minister of Transportation slowly started putting on the tefillin, unbeknownst to the rest of the government, and he started having his own path back to Judaism. This is a person who ran away from Judaism, couldn't care less about Judaism. But deep down inside, he always was listening to that one line. Maybe after all, there is a God. Always stuck with him. So whenever you have a voice, whether it's from your mother, from your father, from me, from the book of Tanya, and tells you, but you could do better, just know, I may not be a righteous person. Maybe I'm considered, because I did one sin, I'm considered wicked. It's okay. Not it's okay that I sinned, but it's okay as long as I have a voice of reasoning inside me. As long as there's a voice of reasoning inside me, I am able to go and turn around and serve God. So my dear friends, we are now at a position that we know a righteous person is somebody who doesn't sin. On the other hand, the person who's considered wicked is somebody who doesn't sin. How do I get to become intermediate? It seems like there's no room. My dear friends, the Alter Rebbe wants you to become that intermediate person. I'm giving you a cliffhanger. Our next class gets into how to be a Beinoni, an in-between person. Thank you all for coming to today's class, and I'll see you at the next class of Living Lessons in Tanya.